Alright guys, this is episode 2 of building wiring harnesses in your hotel room, and today we have a Beetle ALH wiring harness, early model like an O2, so a 2-wire glow plug system. Not that that's really relevant when I do push button glow plugs, but anyway, I got enough questions about just tearing the wiring out of a Beetle that they are a little different, and I wanted to go over that, as well as I wanted to go into a few more details, how I do cruise control and stuff like that. So anyway, step one is obviously pulling this out of the car. And so I'll go ahead and show you where I would cut this out of on my Beetle. It's still in there, but just to give you a reference so you know what you're doing when you get out to a scrapyard or something, or you're trying to get rid of a parts car. So we'll do that right now. So the easiest Beetle for me to show you guys is this one I've already got torn apart here. And it still gives you the general idea though. Obviously you'll still have the windshield in place, but if you pop this cover off of the dash, you'll see the ECU is parked right there underneath, and then there's a connection down here underneath where all the wiring comes out of down here. So you could kind of see with the one I had, this smaller plug, you're going to unplug it here, and then it's pretty easy actually. It's connected a few places, but it runs down and you can see it come out right here, and that's plugged into your glow plugs right here. And then it pretty much runs straight down and over to the engine, and you can disconnect everything off the engine right there. There's not much to show you. Once you get the battery tray out and everything, it's all one piece clear up to there. And then the other side though, it splits off and goes multiple directions, and it's honestly not even worth messing with. I'll show you guys how I do it after that, but basically you're gonna take and get yourself enough of this one that you've got wires to mess with. Maybe bring it over to here on the underneath the ECU here, and just cut it off there. And that's about all that I do to pull that out with. And then obviously on the inside you've got your OBD port right there, and then the gas pedal. I don't know if I can get it in there, but right above the gas pedal is your plug on top of the gas pedal there to connect that to. So that's what you'll pull out there. And yeah, I mean, I guess if you're gonna leave the map sensor, you can cut that guy off. Let's see, I'm not even sure where I tucked that away at. I thought it was right around here, but maybe not. It's gonna be right up here where the air box was. And then obviously your N75 wires right here. That, I think that was mounted on up under here, but you definitely want this guy. And like I say again, just enough wires that you can splice to it. And that pretty much does it for the wiring. The only other last minute thing is your map sensor right here on the intercooler. You can get back enough wire to splice that in, but that should be about it. You definitely want to save your alternator plug, although I wire that in later. And then if you're going to do air conditioning, get your air conditioner plug, but we're not going to go over those in this video. So that pretty much covers it. I mean, I don't like throwing anything away until I'm like 100% sure I don't need it, but that'll get you started at least. And if you're at all questioning whether to save it or not, I'd say save it for now. Alright, so back on the harness here. Like I was kind of saying, the biggest difference is you just really can't get anything off of this big plug side. You're just going to have to cut it, and we're going to have to splice everything from there on that side, which is about the only thing that I could save really on the other harnesses was the mass airflow sensor, or sorry, the map sensor. And that, a lot of times you want to bring that clear out to the intercooler in front or something, so you're extending it anyway. So it's probably not that big of a deal. That and just the connections being like this connection is probably clear down over here on the Jettas and the Golfs, and then there's quite a bit more stuff out on here. It just really depends on if you've got a manual or an auto, because you've got all your different glow plugs coming off here. I've already cut most of them off. But basically you just want to get it down to your crank sensor, your injection pump sensor, your needle lift sensor, and then the coolant temp sensor. And then you pretty much just cut your N75 sensor off, cut your throttle pedal cable, and your OBD port. And then the map is the only other sensor there you really got to cut off. That's just your basic setup. I don't have an alternator plug here, but I'll show you guys. I don't actually wire it into the ECU. I usually just give it power, and these VW alternators are pretty easy about just giving both wires on the regulator 12 volts when the key turns on, and that is enough to kick the regulator on. So anyway, we'll go over all that, but I'll go ahead and start getting some wiring done here. And I've already kind of divided this stuff out here. You've got 6 wires here for your throttle pedal. Those will get spliced together. And then you've got 4 wires for your map sensor there. You've got, let's see, gotta remember what I did here, but this is going to be your N75. It just has the sense wire, and then it'll have the power wire going to this yellow, but this red wire will match up there. And let's see, this is going to be your clutch wire. If you go ahead and do cruise, then you've got your 3 wires here, your cruise, on and off, set, and resume. And let's see, just remembering all this stuff here. So these 2 are the ones that need power to kick on the ECU, and this white and yellow wire here is for your brake pedal. If you don't get a specific tune for a swap, you'll get a dead pedal when you first accelerate, and that's because VW has a full-time 12 volt going through the brake switch just to see that your brake isn't being pressed. And so if you wire that to 12 volts, that'll trick it to thinking you're not stepping on the brake, and that'll eliminate that issue. And then you've got your K line here, which goes over to the OBD port there. And that is all you need to get this baby fired up. This is all extra. And here's your power and your ground. So we'll go ahead and get this sort of wired up for you and see what it looks like. Alright guys, so we got this pretty well wired up here. One thing I didn't really notice until I got into this, I really think the Beetle, just the standard wiring for injection pump and crank sensor and needle lift sensor, is quite a bit longer than just the regular Jetta. This thing came out really long, not messing with that wiring at all. And then I made the map sensor and the N75 valve. Had to wire both of those in, so I made them just a little longer. depending on where you want to end up with them at. And yeah, that's pretty much it for up there out at the engine. And I guess probably the next thing is your OBD port. Just has the 3 connections: the ground, the power, and the K line. And the power goes ahead and comes out to this smaller line here, because you're going to want it active all the time. At least if you do any kind of an OBD display or anything, if you want to be able to save the data, you'll need to have that powered up all the time. So I run that to like a separate 5 amp fuse there. And then your full-time power for your ECU, that's also going to power right now, and that's got, you'll do like a 25 amp fuse to your battery there. Same thing, power all the time. And then the third power is your key on power. You definitely want to make sure that stays hot while you're cranking. I've seen quite a few people end up on some kind of accessory that is hot when you turn the key on, but it goes dead when it's cranking, and that will give you a lot of issues. It's got to be hot while it's cranking. And so then there's the key on relay. I actually just use the 53 relay. You can pull it right out of the car, and it's the same exact thing as an 87 relay. So it's just got the main power coming in. Main power feeds your 2 big red wires over there. It's got 1 small ground, and then the key on wire. That's what that guy is going to do, is kick this relay on here, which will then power up the ECU. And then it also branches off to this smaller fuse. It only needs to be 10 or 15 amp. And that is going to run out to, I think there's 2 things out here. The injection pump and N75 valve have a power. So like this yellow and black wire here, that runs back to this fuse. And then it's also going to run here to these 4 wires going right into the ECU. Again, if you check out a schematic or David Shoemaker's nice diagram there, you'll see here it's a purple and black, a blue and yellow, black and green, and this white and yellow is for the brake. And I was doing some experimenting with that, and it, at least the way I'm going to try wire it for cruise control, that brake will just be hot all the time. So that's how you'll go ahead and do that. Other than that, it's just the throttle pedal. It's kind of annoying with 6 wires there. Quite a few to splice in, but that is right here. Anyway, you can see my OBD port is powered up, and so if we take our key on power, you'll be able to hear it click on here. That's clicking the relay on, and then we'll be able to see that the ECU is powered up here. There we go. We've got connection. We can go to measuring blocks. And of course, with no sensors plugged in, we're not going to see a whole lot here. But I did want to go over, at least tentatively, how I'm going to do my cruise control. And so for that, we'll go to group 6 here. Gives you that, and you can, if you hover over these, you kind of see, but basically you want all of the brake pedal monitoring to be at zeros, and most of it is already. It's just the one, the clutch pedal switch here. Okay, there you can see the diagram a little better there. But anyway, the clutch disable is going to be this white and red wire here. You can watch it. It'll kick off. Be happy there. And then next wire you'll need is the black and white, and that will kick your cruise control system on. There you can see it kick on and off over there. You can kind of run through all these, but basically then you've got your white, that's just a solid white wire, that's like your cruise control switch on. Then there's a red, I believe it's solid red here, yeah, solid red wire. That is, let's see, if we go over here to the diagram, the solid red is the cruise control set, and then there's a blue-gray as well. That'll be your cruise control resume. And the only other one is this this brake pedal black and white wire. And if you check that out here, that's the far left. That guy needs to be on ground, actually. That's the one. It's kind of normally open. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, but I'm probably just going to wire one of these wires and daisy chain it through my clutch and brake if I do a brake. Just simplify the wiring a little bit. I don't really feel like you need to do two separate wires for that, but like on the Dakota, we'll be only using the brake pedal wire, so I will probably just wire this one to a on and off of ground to make that work. But those are pretty much your wires you need for cruise control. The only other thing you really need for the cruise is your vehicle speed sensor. The ECU is going to need to see that the vehicle's moving. Some of them need to see, I think when it's an auto. I don't know, I've played with it with the Toyota. I'm not sure that there's an actual speed that it won't work at, but either way, your one sense wire is this blue and white. It's almost a gray, but if you check out the pinout, you can find it, and that that's going to be the sense part of the vehicle speed sensor. So it's like a Hall effect sensor, and pretty common in a lot of the 90s and early 2000s vehicles. So you should be able to find something that will give you a speed, and that's really key, is unless you're trying to use the speed sensor as your display or something from the ECU, it doesn't matter what the speed is, it just needs to see something. And so for those, that's a 3-wire sensor. It's got power, ground, and this sense wire. And on the Toyota, I was able to use the factory sensor since I was using a GPS speedometer, and that worked pretty perfect. It's way off. It shows I'm going like 45 mile an hour at 65, but it holds 45 mile an hour perfectly when I set the cruise, so I can't complain about that. And in the Dakota, we're going to be using the speed sensor that's already in that Dodge 1500 transfer case, because the Dakota gets its speed sensor from the rear axle, which interestingly enough, the 1-ton axle still has the same speed sensor, so it's plugged right into there. So that's pretty slick, but that really does it for cruise control. I'll probably go over that in detail if you guys want to check out the Dakota build later on, I can show you it actually functioning. But these are the wires you need right here. So find these guys in the schematic and you will have your cruise control working. So it's pretty sweet too, because drive-by-wire cruise control is just so accurate and just holds, I mean, it holds within 1 mile per hour like nothing. So it's nothing like having an old mechanical pump and trying to use a vacuum actuator for cruise. This is a lot more modern and comfortable for sure. But this pretty much shows you, again, same thing on an ALH harness, everything you need to get on the road and get it moving. So it's pretty neat to see it all come together. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and hopefully this gets you guys some wiring harness information.